Hey, this is Warren Redlick. I know what you're thinking. Is it really that small? How can 100,000 2-ton satellites really be considered small? I'm going to tell you how. Are you ready? Let's go. I love this picture, by the way. Just to give you a sense of scale, this is the Starlink V1.5 satellite. The next over is the V2, and then you see the V3 satellite that will be launching on Starship. Beyond that, you see the A1 satellite that is meant to be the centerpiece of the SpaceX, or maybe it's Tesla, AI satellite constellation. Here's another image of it. The critical detail that I think you need to understand about these satellites is their 120 kilowatts of compute. If they're 120 kilowatts of compute and you have 100,000 satellites, you end up with 12 gigawatts of compute, which sounds like a lot, right? The SpaceX XAI Colossus is around 1 gigawatt. The next data center that I expect SpaceX to build, the Vera Rubin data center, will be a 1 gigawatt data center. So 12 gigawatts in space sounds like a lot, but it isn't. I'm going to explain why it's not. Today on Earth, there are approximately 55 gigawatts of data centers operating now. That's not all compute. That includes cooling and other things, but in the ballpark of 40 gigawatts of data centers today on Earth. So you can see 12 gigawatts, what, 5, 6 years from now is not necessarily that big of a deal. And it gets much smaller when you look into the future. There's a lot of data centers being built, and they're primarily AI compute. So when you go out to when we hit 100,000 satellites from SpaceX in a constellation, it's optimistic to say that happens in 5 years. So let's say it's 2032, 6 years from now, that they achieve the 100,000th satellite. Let's say that an operational fleet of 100,000 of these satellites. Now you have 12 gigawatts, but what's on Earth? By that point in time, unless something bizarre happens, and bizarre things do happen, we're probably looking at 200 gigawatts of AI compute data centers on Earth, which makes this constellation in the ballpark of 5% of all AI compute on Earth. In other words, it sounds like a big deal, and it's not nothing, and it's valuable and generates a lot of revenue and it generates a lot of profit. But on the scale of what humanity needs to really expand AI compute and achieve some of the larger goals that we have, 12 gigawatts is just the beginning. It's a small start. What's the real goal? The real goal is terawatts of compute in space. So this is really small by comparison to where we need to go to start climbing the Kardashev scale. We go from small to big when SpaceX completes the terafab with Tesla, when SpaceX starts launching larger AI satellites that go from 120 kilowatts to 1 megawatt. So you get an 8x there, you increase the volume, and you start pushing the amount that you can maybe achieve from Earth. And then the next step is building manufacturing facilities on the moon. To make solar cells, you're probably not making the advanced chips on the moon anytime soon. But you might be able to make solar cells and you might be able to make the structure of the satellites in moon manufacturing, launch them from the mass driver from basically a track that just accelerates them to high velocity, no atmosphere and minimal gravity, and they're able to go off into space from there and probably go into solar orbit instead of Earth orbit. And you start building the Dyson swarm. And the Dyson swarm, if it only captures 1 millionth of the sun's output, right? It doesn't meaningfully affect light hitting the Earth if it's only 1 millionth of the sun's output. If you capture 1 millionth of the sun's output, which is dramatically more than anything we're doing on Earth, ridiculous, it's ridiculous scale. At that point, you're generating many, many terawatts and beyond of power and compute that powers advanced artificial intelligence. And one of the things I noticed in the SpaceX conversation they just had is I don't think anyone really knows what use we get out of that much compute? Does it create an intelligence that's that much smarter? And what can we do with that intelligence? Does that level of intelligence make life better for humanity? Does it create the kind of abundance that Elon talks about? Does it create some sort of value for us? Does it make it easier for us to go to the stars because the intelligence solves problems we can't solve? Is there an upper bound on what intelligence can do? Is there some sort of limit, like you've reached a certain level of intelligence, and yes, you've got more parameters in your model, you've got effectively a larger brain, but is there a limit to what that does for you? I don't think we know the answer to that question yet, and I'm looking forward to finding out. Hopefully, I'll still be around to find out. I think we're talking 20, 30 years from now, and I think I can stick around that long to see it happen, maybe longer. So the answer is the 2-ton satellite is large, but it's small. The 100,000 satellite network sounds big, but it's small. When you get to terawatts of compute orbiting the sun and capturing 1 millionth of the sun's energy, it sounds big to us, but compared to the sun, it's still small. And compared to the galaxy, it's not even noticeable. We have a long way to go to climb the Kardashev scale. Let's make it happen. Turning to our AI stocks report, you can see that it was a negative day for the AI stocks in general. The secondary index, everything was down. Marvell Networks, which has been up a lot, is down a lot. I think this is just generally a volatility day. I didn't see any particular news that would move stocks up or down. There is a bit of news that was positive about Broadcom, and of course, that didn't move the stock up at all. ASML, Google, and TSMC tend to be the least volatile of all the stocks. They seem to hold their ground. They don't go up much when the market goes up, and they don't go down as much when the market goes down. ASML and TSMC are, the classic picks and shovels, and Google just has too broad of a business line that the AI doesn't seem to move it one way or the other. Nvidia only down slightly, so again, not much volatility there. Tesla fans, we dropped below $400 a share. It's just one long roller coaster ride. Positive news for Broadcom that didn't translate to the stock price. Plan from Apollo. These are private equity companies. Apollo and Blackstone are funding a 20 gigawatt compute capacity set of clusters for leading frontier labs using Broadcom's platform. You would think that 20 gigawatts of compute lined up for Broadcom would be a big boost for the stock. No impact. It doesn't seem to have affected the stock at all, and that's not a surprise. It's just the way things go. Initial plan is to help Anthropic and work with other frontier labs in the future. Nice little story. If it turns into 20 gigawatts, if you paid attention to the first part of this video, if it turns into 20 gigawatts, that's more compute than SpaceX is planning to launch on 100,000 satellites. So it's potentially a big deal, although still small on the Kardashev scale. If you're familiar with Tesla, you're familiar with the competition is coming. NVIDIA gets this all the time. It was Cerebras before, now it's D-Matrix. There are these specialized chip makers that come up with these solutions that they say is going to beat out NVIDIA. And I looked into this a little bit. It seems reasonable. I think ultimately the total compute power of D-Matrix's setup is dramatically less than what NVIDIA offers, but it's very energy efficient, is the claim. We'll see whether this materializes into something that grows and scales and gets a lot of usage. Right now, it's hard to say. And if you're interested in understanding long-term investing from a different perspective, please consider supporting me as a YouTube channel member, an ex-subscriber, or a Patreon supporter. You get access to my option specials where I focus on long-term call options on AI stocks. And I have a new metric or ratio that I use to look at these stocks and look at how they're trading. It gives insight into what long-term perspectives might really be on these stocks, and when we talk about different ways you can use this information to invest for the long term. These videos are not for short-term traders. So if you're interested in options for short-term trading, you're not going to get what you want as on these videos. It may give you some perspective that's helpful in understanding different perspectives. So please support me on the various platforms. Thank you so much for watching.